the Teach Pitch podcast. We are very excited to be launching a series of interviews for Teach Pitch, a global community of tens of thousands of subscribers from over 205 countries who all have a desire to improve the state of education in this world. And for these interviews, we have selected a number of our subscribers who have achieved great things. And by great, I mean amazing. Think of former presidents, entrepreneurs, fashion designers, hospital builders, non-profit founders, authors, journalists, doctors, etc. And what all our guests have in common is that despite their great success, they've encountered many enormous challenges. So what were these challenges and how did they overcome them? That is what we are going to be talking about here. My name is Aldo de Pap and I'm massively looking forward and very grateful you can join us on this journey. So sit back, relax, and download the podcast here.
This episode is powered by Tonies and their amazing Tony Box. Happy kids, happy parents, happy listening. Check out tonies.com for more information.
A very happy Thursday, everyone. I'm so glad you could make it to another episode of the Teach Pitch podcast. And I have to be frank, this is actually not an episode. This is more of an announcement. An announcement about a new format that we're going to introduce in our show. And for it to make sense to you, I need to take you a little bit back in time because we live in an era of absolute information overload. And I'm sure you're aware, but there's so much content to find out there. Visually, you have things like pictures, videos, reels, and manipulated images all over our social media. And audibly, you have things like audiobooks, Twitter spaces, clubhouse meetings, and yes, also podcasts. Now, when we as a team started the Teach Pitch podcast a little over a year ago, we did it to highlight the hard work of people who achieved great things in their own right. Now, more than anything, I was set on making it clear to our listeners that yes, our guests have indeed achieved great success, but no, this did not happen automatically. Each and every one of our guests have been through hardships, challenges, and needed to overcome huge obstacles to get where they are today. From our very first episode where we had a president to the trauma surgeon, from the CIA spy that we had to Dr. Eager, the psychologist, the deep adversity they needed to overcome in their lives rhymes with the great accomplishments they managed to set out there. Now, some of you might know that our podcast is actually born out of a community of educators that want to realize change. And the change they all want to see is focused on improving the global state of education. Now, if you were to go to teachpitch.com and sign up, you will see that we've curated loads of content. I believe we have over 250,000 online resources to date that we all brought together in a big online library, ready to use for educators who are keen to improve the state of education in their community, classroom, or school. I'm happy to say that this library is being used a lot and currently by over 62,000 active users from over 200 countries. And it is for those people that we originally developed this show. Now, our community is very active, and I was overjoyed to see that the members of the community also started to help and train one another by creating tutorials and reviews on great educational content they found through our library or technology tools they were using. This led to us working with very useful manuals that their peers could use to further instruct their colleagues and students. Now, I'm going to stop here with the Teach Pitch story, but to make a long story short, with our podcast, we actually want to extend our line of thinking to not only organize reviews on the platforms, but also in this show. And that is why we are building a community of audio aficionados that will help us to review great podcast shows, episodes, hosts, and guests out there. So if you like listening to podcasts like I do, actually I love it, I don't like it, you're bound to have your favorites, and I want to hear all about them. We want to know from you, from over the 1 million shows that are out there, which one we should listen to. Now, we love that you are listening to the Teach Pitch podcast, but the last thing we want to do is just being out there in isolation. We don't want to just drop content without being aware of all the other great podcast episodes that are being made all over the world. So if you're listening to this and you want our growing community to know more about your favorite podcast, and I'm talking here about favorites, it could also be the opposite. Perhaps you hate a certain show and you want to vent on our program so the world can find out about that as well, then get in touch with us. You can do so by looking at our show notes where we mention our email, but you could also go to social media. And together, I am confident we can make an excellent audio aficionado episode that, ladies and gentlemen, I think will change this world forever. Very exciting. Now, in the next audio aficionado episodes, I will surely be talking about the shows that have inspired me. And I cannot wait to share that with you. Some of them, I dare to say, have changed my entire outlook on life. And I hope you are excited about this. I hope you will become an audio aficionado. I want to know about you and your preferences in the podcast world. So do get in touch, and cannot wait to have you as our guest, commentator, or aficionado in general. Thanks a lot.
If you liked this episode of the Teach Pitch podcast, then it would mean the absolute world if you could share it with your friends and or give it a short review on your preferred podcast platform. The more you share your ideas about these interviews, the more people will find out about them. So do let us know what you think. We'd be very, very grateful.
Special thanks to Philip Anderson for our beautiful theme music. This podcast was produced and edited by Natalie Piles. Project coordination by Inva Saini, and production assistance by Genta Metalia.